Hi, everybody. This is Drew Tomlin with the Association for Middle Level Education, and I'm joined today by a wonderful author by the name of Shauna King. So Shauna is a former middle school teacher and a principal who serves now as an educational consultant, an adjunct professor at LaSalle University, and certified presenter at for the Upside Down organization, among the many, many things that she does to serve the education all around. So thank you so much, Dr. King, for being with us today.
Thanks, Drew, for having me.
Oh, excellent, excellent. So obviously a wonderful article. We wanted to check it out and have more of a conversation with you because this is a key time to talk about transition in the middle grade. So why do you think transitions to and from middle school are so challenging for young adolescents and their families as well? What do you think?
Well, if you think about it, elementary school was a long stretch. We know, kindergartners coming in, the parents are there, they're excited. This is the first school experience. And the children are excited about school because their parents are excited to send them. And we're really right there. The teachers are welcoming. And then there's a long stretch there between, whether it's K through 5 or K through 6, depending on your middle level program. And this is the first big change. And it's like, wait a minute, we got into a groove of things. And now all of a sudden, things are different. You want to go to a different school when we've made friendships, relationships with teachers. Many times you're with the same teacher for the majority of the day in your elementary program. Now I'm about to go somewhere and have 6 teachers. That's scary. And that's not just for kids, that's for families. Because as a parent right now of a child who's going into the middle level, that's why I was like, oh my goodness, I'm about to have a 6th grader. They're going to have 5 different teachers. What do I do? They're changing. We're changing. And I think we're all a little nervous about this transition period that's just kind of new when we've gotten into a nice little groove of consistency with elementary school.
Right, that's a good point. That long stretch from the K-5 world, if that's how it works in that structure. But yeah, that's a long stretch. And I, as having two boys, one in 4th and one in 7th, yeah, that transition is always on my mind. So you mentioned that one of the things that can help with this process is goal setting. So why is goal setting so important? And what's an example of a suitable goal for a young adolescent that can help them with transition?
Well, goal setting is very important because as adolescents grow from the young elementary school children, you notice this desire for autonomy that they want to have. They want to be more in charge of things. And sometimes that creates some power struggles for adults and kids. But I think we need to embrace that because our whole job is to really, as teachers and even as parents, is to help them begin to lead and take things where we're not doing everything for them. So the goal setting is a way to kind of put them in the passenger seat. I'm not ready for the driver's seat yet.
Okay.
But kind of to put them in the passenger seat when it comes to they're in the front seat when it comes to their learning. So how can they kind of begin to steer what's going? Teachers and even parents have been doing a lot of the driving for them. This is how we're going to do this. This is how you structure this. This is the time for this, and follow my direction. I think as we go into the middle level, teachers can then help them set some goals. What are you interested in? How are you going to do this? So that we're not stepping back, but we're just allowing them to say, what are my goals? What are the things I'm interested in doing? Even in our lessons, being able to say, okay, these are the 3 things that are due. Which order would you like to do them in? And having them be more in a lead role, because that's going to help that autonomy that they are desiring, where they can then set a goal. So for example, I can have a student who's having difficulty with turning in papers, the homework, doing the homework is one thing. Remembering to turn in the homework.
Oh, goodness, yes.
It's something else. But how can I then set a goal? So let's say I start with where I am right now. I'm forgetting to turn in my homework 3 times per week. So that's a lot. But as opposed to saying it's never going to happen, how can we minimize that to say, what, my goal is to not forget to turn in my homework more than once per week. And we're going to start there because you want to have a reasonable goal and then say, okay, how can we do it where it doesn't happen more than once a month or something like that? Because then you're giving them the opportunity to say, what's a goal for you? Not just don't do this anymore. What's your goals? Even academically and socially, what are the things you'd like to do?
Right. And it goes back to that long stretch of elementary school. I think for a lot of families, like if their child has struggled with a certain behavior through elementary school and now they reach middle school, the tendency is to say, you got to stop doing that. You know, this is the time you've got to stop doing what you were doing before. But like you said and reminded us, you got to have a measurable and a reasonable goal for behavioral change. You just can't suddenly say, okay, you're in 6th grade, so you know it's time to change. That doesn't work that way.
Absolutely, and we all know that doesn't work that way. That magic wand that just erases all negative behavior. Well, if you have it, Drew, I'll purchase it from you because I need it in my home school. But I don't have that magic wand to make things just stop just like that. But we've got to celebrate the growth.
Right, right. And that goes to really, I think, our next question about attitudes, right? So how do our attitudes as adults about transition and about other things, how does that affect young adolescents' attitudes, and how should we monitor our attitudes?
Well, this is probably one of the most difficult ones, I think, because adolescents are going through such changes socially and physiologically. Their brains, their bodies are all changing. But I think when it comes to adult attitudes, what we've got to do is be consistent. We've got to be consistent in our message, what we're expecting, but also empathetic. So if I could say consistent yet empathetic, because as I wrote in the article, they don't know what's going on sometimes. They don't know why they feel certain ways, certain days. I mean, you know, you can have a middle school student who one day is up and the next day is just down, and they don't know what's going on themselves. But as the educator, as the adult, if we can be consistent and yet empathetic to know that they're going through changes so that we can support them as they go on this emotional roller coaster, to say, although you may be going through this emotional roller coaster, I'm going to be the consistency for you. While you're not understanding what's going on, this is what I'm going to model. So I think for adults that can be challenging because every now and then I can run into a middle level student who's a little disrespectful. I know you've never seen any of those.
No.
I've seen a few. But one of the issues is, how can I then continue to model respect as the adult? If I want respect, then I'm modeling respect. If I, you know, any behavior that I want, any attitude that I want from my middle level student, I can say, am I demonstrating that? Because the best gift that any adult can give a kid is the gift of a good example. And that's what we want to be.
Gosh, that's so well said. The best gift is the gift of a good example.
Absolutely.
Wow, that says it all right there. So, you know, you talked about what families can do and what teachers can do to be those good examples for transition. And obviously another group that is key to the success of transition are school leaders and administrators. So from your perspective, and having been a principal yourself too, what can school leaders do to support young adolescents through transition?
Well, you know, if it's a matter of coming into middle level or a middle school, I think being able to understand that those elementary school children are very nervous. And so having programs or opportunities where they can come and visit their local middle school, shadow a student for the day, I think would be wonderful, where you have some students even go to their elementary school and discuss what are the exciting things about that you can look forward into middle school. So having those transition programs, and even on the other end as well, as they transition to high school, what are those bridge programs that you're having? I've worked with summer bridge programs where the 8th graders get a chance to spend some time in the 9th grade high school that they're going to, get to meet a couple people, walk around the school. Because I know for me in my high school, it's big. So one of the biggest things that kids are nervous about is getting lost going to class. So how can you ease some of those fears with some transition programs, but then also developmentally in the middle school, in our advisory periods for our schools who are doing advisories? Are you allowing them to be interested in certain things? Can they choose those advisories based on interest? I've seen a lot of schools that are doing those types of things. And that helps the adolescent during this transition period kind of find themselves. What am I interested in? Maybe I want to learn about this. Maybe I want to talk about this. And some of those advisory periods can really be, can help develop the relationships and help to cultivate some of the curiosities of our middle level students during transition.
Right. Like you said, there's bridge programs, and I love that kind of metaphorical term there. I mean, it is, you're trying to create a support structure for a divide between one part of the educational continuum and the next. So making sure that those are responsive to young adolescents, that's what it's all about. So, all right. So, I mean, clearly, you are an advanced learner about all of everything that's going on in transition with young adolescents, and you've been on an interview with me before, so you know that the last question is a metaphorical journey that, but I know that you're prepared to take it. So we're going to transition to that question. So if transition was a food for middle level education, Shauna, what kind of food would it be and why?
Well, Drew, as you know, that's a tricky question, but I had to think about this one. So let me tell you what I think. If it was transition was a food, it's going to be sherbet.
Ooh.
Let me tell you why.
Okay, please.
Because sherbet can be used in a couple of different ways, and I actually didn't know this at first. But sherbet can be used as a palate cleanser to prepare you for the main course.
Oh.
And so it's transitions. We can cleanse you to prepare you because you're going somewhere big. You're going to high school. This is the next level. Or you can see transitions as the dessert, because sherbet could also be a dessert. As the sweetener on the end, you have learned so much. You are now ready to go to the next level. So whether your transition is considered a palate cleanser to be able to say, I'm preparing you for the next one, or it's a celebratory transition to this is what you've learned. Let's hooray before we get to the next one. This is what would be a wonderful metaphor for transitions, sherbet.
Wow. You know what? That is great. That is awesome. From an ice cream perspective, sherbet has always been a scary flavor to me because I don't tend to go towards the fruity flavors.
Okay.
But now I know that sherbet is a powerful confectionery. That is wonderful.
It absolutely is. It actually cleanses. In some very fancy restaurants, especially in the islands, you would get a small spoonful of sherbet, orange sherbet, or it can be green sherbet, doesn't matter. And it cleanses your palate so that you don't take your appetizer taste, whatever you've already eaten, or your salad. So you don't have that taste as you go into your main course. You have a cleansed palate.
Yeah, that's really interesting. That's really interesting. It has to be served up in just the right way, and how sweet it is. That's great.
Absolutely. You know, I like sweet stuff. I like dessert. So anytime you ask me that question, I'm probably never going to say broccoli or cauliflower or spinach. I'm going to dessert section. Sorry.
Hey, no, listen, you go where your heart is. And I understand that too. My sweet tooth is a pretty long and active tooth. That's for sure.
All right.
Thank you so much for the interview. Not only learned a lot about transition, but learned a lot about ice cream as well. So, you're a giver. You're a giver, Shauna.
Always a pleasure, Drew. Always a pleasure.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, and you have a great rest of the day. And hey, everybody out there at AMLE, thank you so much for checking out the article and checking out this interview here at AMLE, where we help you reach every student, grow professionally, and create great schools. Thanks again, Shauna.
Take care.
Bye.